Part 1.
You will hear a conversation between a man and a woman as the man joins a local library. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Listen carefully to the conversation and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hello, I'm new in the area and I'd like to join the library, please.
That's no problem. Let me get an application form. Here we are. Now, all we have to do is fill this in and then I'll get you to sign it and you'll be a member.
Great.
Now then, what's your full name?
Peter Adrian Camden.
How do you spell Camden?
C-A-M-D-E-N.
C-A-M-D-E-N?
Yes, that's right.
Right. And what's your address?
Flat 5, 53 Green Street, Finsbury.
OK, got that. That's near here, isn't it?
Yes, just 5 minutes walk.
What's the postcode?
7424. 7434.
Got that now. Now, can you tell me your date of birth?
8th of July, 1976.
And what's your telephone number?
Well, I don't have a home number, but I've got a mobile.
That'll do fine.
It's 06634 982 746. Did you get that?
Some of it. Can you say it again?
The code's 06634 and the number's then 982 746.
Right. That's almost it. Now I need some kind of identification to prove where you live. Do you have a driving licence or a passport or anything like that?
I'm afraid that everything I have has got my old address on it. Do you need it now?
No, not now, but you won't be able to take anything out until we see that.
Wait a minute. I've got a letter addressed to me here that arrived this morning. Will that do?
Oh yes, that's a good idea. That will be fine. Let's look. OK, well that's finished.
Before the conversation continues, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 6 to 10.
Could I ask you a few questions? The council that runs the library is running a survey to find out what kind of books people prefer so that they can direct their buying.
Yeah, no problem.
OK, so what type of books do you like?
Well, I'm very keen on mysteries. You know, when a detective is trying to find out who did the murder. Historical novels interest me too. Romance, never. My sister loves them, but they bore me to tears. I quite like books on animals too. I get them out sometimes. Not science fiction either. Too weird.
Well, I think that's it then.
Good. Oh, do you charge anything?
The library is free unless you want to rent out some of our videos or DVDs.
How much is that?
Well, we rent videos out for $4 each and DVDs are $6. You must leave us a deposit of $60 as well. That's returnable, of course.
I don't think I'll get any of those just yet. Can I pay later?
Sure, just give the money in when you're ready to rent them out.
Well, thanks very much. You've been very helpful. I might take a book out now for the weekend, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Well, goodbye.
That is the end of Part 1. You will now have half a minute to check your answers. Part 2.
You will hear a man taking a group of tourists around a museum site. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Welcome to Brampton Museum. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the museum first and then show you round. As you can see, Brampton is an open-air museum. The first open-air museums were established in Scandinavia towards the end of the 19th century, and the concept soon spread throughout Europe and North America, and there are several in Britain, all of which tell the history of a particular part of the country. Brampton focuses on life during the 19th century. The site was chosen because there were already some historic 19th century buildings here, and others have been dismantled in different parts of the region and rebuilt on the site. This hadn't been attempted before in these parts, so we're very proud of what we have here. All of the buildings are filled with furniture, machinery and objects. You may be able to see these in other museums, but not in their original settings. What also sets Brampton apart from other museums is that the story of the exhibits is told not by labels, but by costumed staff like myself. I look after sheep, cows and hens, which are much the same as those you see on modern farms, but I use traditional methods to care for them. You will also be able to see a blacksmith and a printer, as well as other craftspeople. If you talk to them, you'll be able to find out what life was really like 150 years ago. Our programme of activities during the year has guided walks, an agricultural fair, and all the other events you would expect a museum to have. But remember, here you experience them in the real surroundings. The site is divided into different areas. The main building contains our High Street, which is a street of 19th century shops, offices and some homes. There's a stationer's shop which sells a range of specially selected cards, prints and copies of Victorian stationery, all available for purchase by visitors. Upstairs, in the same building, a printer demonstrates the production of posters, business cards and advertising material. Across the street from the stationer's is a clothes shop, and there's a baker's where you can watch a demonstration of someone making bread, cakes and pastries. We also have a sweet shop, which has old-fashioned sweets for sale. Vintage trams travel along from one end of the street to the other, carrying visitors on their journey into the past. We will also be visiting the farm and taking a ride on a steam train. Of course, the main form of transport in those days was the horse, and you can watch horses being exercised in the old stables. This part of Britain was famous for coal mining, and on the site we have part of a mine which opened in 1860 and was worked for over 100 years before closing in 1963. Visitors can put on a hard hat and take a guided tour underground to see how coal was worked and to experience the working conditions in the early 1900s.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
Now, if you'd like to look at your map, we'll begin our tour. The site is a bit like a circle, with the railway going round the edge. You can see where we are now by the entrance, and we're going to start by walking to the high street. We'll go to the crossroads in the middle of the map and go straight on, making our way between two buildings on either side of the path. The larger one is an exhibition centre, but it's not open today, unfortunately. The other building is offices. The path leads directly to the High Street building, which is at the opposite side of the site to the entrance. Here you're free to wander around and take a ride up and down on a tram. We'll then take the path which follows the railway line and crosses it to the farm. If you wish, you can have tea in the farmhouse, and there'll be time to look at the animals and the machinery. Then we cross the railway line again and visit our special attraction, which is the coal mine. It's just in front of us, here at the entrance. We'll return to the crossroads and walk through a small wooded area to the manor house. This is one of the original buildings on the site and belonged to a wealthy farmer. You can look round the house and gardens and talk to our guides who can tell you what it was like to live there. We will then follow a path which goes past the pond and will take us to the railway station, which is situated between the path and the railway line. Finally, we'll take the steam train back around the site, passing alongside the high street and the coal mine back to the entrance. So, if you'd like to follow me...
That is the end of part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Part 3.
You will hear a conversation between two students in the education department who are discussing their first assignment. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 28. Listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 28.
Hey, Ted. What are we going to do about this assignment?
Well, Cleo, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Oh?
Yeah. The topic is, why study abroad? I suggest we do a survey of international students, collate the responses, make a graph, and exhibit our findings in the form of a poster.
Wow, you have given this some thought, haven't you?
Of course. This is only the first assignment. There will be a lot more to come, so let's get this one out of the way quickly.
Well, how do we do the survey?
I think we need to find a good selection of foreign students.
So, how about we go over to the English language school at lunchtime and talk to some of the students there?
That's not a bad idea, but we shouldn't limit ourselves to that department.
Why not?
Well, think about it. They'll all give the same reason, to learn English.
Of course, you're right. Well, one of us could cover the language school, and the other could go around the business school.
Yes, I know there are a lot of internationals there, too, but I think a random sample from foreign students on campus might give us a better range of answers.
What are we going to ask them? Why are you studying abroad?
An open question like that could mean we get hundreds of different responses. It would be better if we made up, say, 10 reasons and asked each respondent to place them in order of importance.
You're right. That would certainly make collation easier. Any ideas about what these 10 reasons might be?
Sure. I've got enough foreign friends to know quite a lot about what motivates them.
Okay, number 1 is...
I think that's obvious. How about study abroad is the best way to learn a language? And number 2 is obvious as well.
I know. Study abroad gives you the chance to travel.
What's third?
It's either culture or friendship.
Okay, let's go for culture. Study abroad gives you first-hand experience of a different culture.
Not just that, but it gives you new experiences as well. Not all of them are good, but it's meeting those challenges and adapting to new situations and solving problems and so on.
Let's make that a separate reason. How about study abroad, will compel you to develop new skills?
Sounds good. Then study abroad promotes international friendship.
What are we up to now?
Wait, that was number 5.
Do you think learning about yourself is the same as developing new skills?
No, I think it's quite different. Probably more closely related to culture. You really mean embracing new concepts and perceptions, don't you?
Yes, and reconsidering one's own beliefs and values, or at least seeing them through new eyes.
We could make the next one and call it something like, Study abroad provides the opportunity to learn about yourself.
We ought to throw in a few about study and work, because I'm sure that rates highly with many foreign students.
Of course. Study abroad gives you the opportunity to expand your academic,
Academic what? Let's simplify it. Make it the opportunity to study different subjects.
Yes, good. It can also enhance the value of your degree.
How's that?
Well, I think you can take courses you would never have had the opportunity to take on your home campus, and employers will know also that your language skills have been given quite a boost.
Isn't that the same as number 7?
No, I think it's a separate issue.
All right, keep it. Now, I think this next one is more important.
Shall I change the order?
No need. The students are going to rank them according to their views.
So what is it?
Study abroad enhances employment opportunities.
Ugh, why didn't I think of that? Anyway, there's one even more obvious than that.
Let me guess. Study abroad broadens your mind?
Exactly.
Okay. Now we have 10. Let's print off 100 questionnaires and go and do the survey.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 29 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 29 to 30.
Did you hear about the National Geographic Survey of American students between the ages of 18 and 24?
Yes. It sounds as if they could benefit from study abroad. Did you know that only 1% of U.S. students currently study abroad? Anyway, back to that National Geographic Survey. It was carried out internationally, and it was Sweden that came out on top.
It's really amazing, isn't it? When given a map of the world, only 13% of American students were able to find Iraq, and the same for Iran.
I know, and not surprisingly, I suppose, Afghanistan didn't fare much better. 83% couldn't locate it on the map. There must be something about that region. 76% couldn't identify Saudi Arabia either.
But Asia didn't come off much better. Over half the students couldn't find Japan on the map. But do you know what's really incredible?
Yes, I do. 11% of them couldn't even find their own country.
It's no wonder the USA scored near the bottom. only 2 points above Mexico, which was ranked last.
That is the end of Part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Part 4.
You will hear a lecturer talking about an unusual atomic particle called a neutrino. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 35. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 35.
When considering the smallest unit of matter, the atom, most people know of electrons, protons and neutrons, but almost none know of another particle, even though they are constantly emitted from the sun in the trillions, with 100 to 200 billion of them regularly passing through your body every second. To repeat, that's not thousands, not millions, but billions every second. You don't feel them because they are small. In fact, so tiny that we can barely detect their presence at all. These mysterious particles are called neutrinos. Despite such an abundance, detecting them is a huge undertaking, and there are many reasons for this. Firstly, the neutrino itself is so small that you need to eliminate absolutely all other particles around. To do this, you need what is called a clean room, one that has an extremely low level of dust, microbes, floating particles, or chemical vapors. You probably don't know it, but the air around you right now has almost 40 million particles per cubic meter. In contrast, the cleanest of clean rooms has less than 10. The second problem is that you also need an environment with absolutely no background radiation. At the surface of the Earth, such radiation is all around, from the sun and sky, and from TVs and communication devices. The only way to screen out all that is to go underground, and I mean deep underground. For example, the Sudbury Neutrino Observatory in Canada uses an old nickel mine, one of the deepest in the world, and puts the observatory in its lowest tunnel, more than 2 kilometers below the surface. At such depths, stray radiation is sufficiently screened out to allow neutrinos only to pass by. The final problem is that you need an elaborate detection system, and this apparatus is huge, and its installation in this deep underground cavity presents quite a headache. Holding such a weighty construction safe and secure requires complex engineering work, such as rock bolting and support structuring. This obviously requires great care and takes a lot of effort.
Before you hear the rest of the lecture, you have some time to look at questions 36 to 40. Now listen and answer questions 36 to 40.
So I've told you about the difficulty in detecting neutrinos. They are tiny, virtually weightless, have no electric charge, and hardly interact with anything at all. Yet we can detect them, and to see how, let's consider the Sudbury installation once again. The detector there consists of a spherical container filled with heavy water. This rests inside another vessel filled with normal water, which helps support the weight of the inner sphere, as well as providing further shielding from any stray radiation. At the edge of this inner sphere are about 10,000 electronic detectors. These are extremely sensitive, able to multiply 100 million times any electric current which occurs. So, as the neutrinos pass through this sphere of water, there is a very, very, very small chance that one of them may hit a water molecule. To increase the likelihood of this, two strategies are used. 1. The larger the sphere of water, the better, and the Sudbury tank holds not 10 tons, not 100 tons, but 1,000 tons. 2. The water is special, consisting as it does of heavier molecules. So what happens is this. If the neutrino hits the water molecule, the neutrino is absorbed, but the molecule itself splits apart, producing a tiny electric current. It is this which is detected and analysed, giving key information about the neutrino. The final question is, why do we care about these elusive particles? Well, just think. They can pass right through the core of our sun at the speed of light without being affected or losing strength. No other form of radiation can do that, meaning that the knowledge we get about neutrinos can help us to control them. With this ability, we can probe the centre of our Earth, the inner layers of our sun, and the outer limits of our solar system. And that makes it all worth the effort.
That is the end of part 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
That is the end of the listening test. You now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the listening answer sheet.